I've talked before about upcasting different types in F# to the object type. For example, when we want to save some values, it might be useful, and we have different types of values, it might be useful to upcast them to object and then store them in, for example, a list before we save it. What I want to talk about today is performing type tests via pattern matching. So if you have something coming in that's of type object, but you know that the object might be some lower level type, just that it's stored in the form of an object, you can do something similar to normal pattern matching that we've seen before for the actual types. So to illustrate that, let me define a function for doing this. So I'm going to say report object. And this function is going to take some input x, and that input is going to be of type object, like that. And in the body here, I want to simply do a match statement. So I would say match x with. And in my different cases here, I could actually do a type test. You do that with the colon question mark operator like this. And then you would do, for example, string as s. So this will catch your object if it is of type string, and it will call it s. There we go. What I'm going to do then is I'm just going to print, let's see, print fn. I'll just say the input is is the string, and then here I would print the string. Now I'm going to do the same thing for an integer. Integer. I'm going to change this to an integer like that. I'm also going to change the variable name for, so it sort of makes sense. I mean, the variable name can be whatever, but like that. The int here is important. The int and the string, they are important because they need to coincide with the actual type, but whatever you call this variable, it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to define the default case as well. Then I'll just do like this and say printfn, the input is something else. Okay, cool. In addition to that, I'm going to define two objects now. So I'm going to say let object1 be, and then I'll take some integer, let's say 3, and I'll send that to an object, like so. Okay. The second one I'll define as string 2, and I will make a string called hello, like that. Lastly, if I want to, I can also do a float. So let's do object 3, and we would do something like 4.3, like that. Okay, let me define all this. There we go. And now I will just execute everything. So first of all, let's call this report object on object 1, like that. We'll see what we get. You can see now that we get the printout, the input is the integer 3. So it's able to catch the fact that this object that we now send in, and note here, object 1 is in fact an object. So if we look at the type here, we can see it's object. It has a value of 3, and F# is able to figure out that this is an integer and that it has the value 3. What I'll do then is I'll do the same thing for object 2, like that. I'll execute this. You can see that F# figures out that the input is the string hello. And lastly, if I just call this on object 3, like that, we get that the input is something else because I haven't defined the type checking for a float yet. So we can see here that you're able to match objects based on whatever type they actually have. So that's a very useful feature when you're working with types and you want to define them in terms of something more specific.